So here we have the Dobot Candy Grabber. It was me, Amir Ardalan, and Brad Jones's MEC-150 Capstone project. And this is just an overview of the initial setup for it for everybody. So starting it off, once everything's plugged in, you can notice all the lights turning on, the screen is on for the LCD. You want to turn on the Dobot by pressing the power button in the corner here. And then once it makes a beeping noise, then it's online. Give it some time. Alright, so the beeping noise. And then you want to press this button, which releases the lock on the arm. You want to move the arm so it's away from any objects and high up. And then there's a key button that's in the back right next to reset. So you press that, and then it homes the robot and turns it into offline mode so it can load the program and pick up the candy. And then you want to make sure when it's moving, you lift up the suction cup so it doesn't run into the actual platform right here. But then once it gets over, you can release it and auto adjust itself, and then it's good to go. So that's good. So now you can press the button. Then it goes and picks up the candy. The first time the LEDs are initially off for the progress bar because the arm starts off in its home position here, but every other time it's going to be on point because it doesn't start in that initial position of its home. It actually goes to the program set home. So you can see the lights went off, or a little bit off there. But now if I were to do it again, candy gets stuck. That's another thing you have to be aware of, that sometimes candy will get stuck in here. So if you get candy stuck, you want to move this part, and then you want to take out the candy that could be stuck inside of here, because candy can get stuck there, so be aware of that if something happens. So in order to prevent that issue from happening, sometimes you just got to make sure you push down on the candy. If there's not a lot, there's a high chance of that happening, but you can just take off the magazine, which is very simple as you saw, and then you can take all the candy out. But make sure you turn off the motor so it doesn't keep pushing it up. By just unplug everything, turn off power, and you just reset up and you're good to go. So the candy magazine tower is back in, and then everything works now. So that's just something you should be aware of in case that initial thing happens. But you can see with the light progression going on here, that's just on a timer since you can't get an actual signal from the Dobot itself. And then the LCD screen is also showing off something. And then boom, just finished it. And it always will start in this position after you run the program the first time for its actual program set home versus the home that the Dobot does when it calibrates itself. Other things to keep in mind of, sometimes just make sure you have all 4 power sources plugged in. The LEDs need their own source, which is plugged in. The Arduino needs 2. You can either use a computer or you can use like a 5-volt USB supply right here. And you just have that hooked up. And then I just have it hooked up to the computer for now just for debugging, but it's all fine. And then let's see. And then you also just need another, this is a 9-volt power right here. This is just so then the motor has enough power as well to actually work. And then you just want to make sure all 4 sources are plugged in. And then that's basically just the initial setup for the Dobot itself when you're bringing it anywhere. And then now we can go to the Dobot program itself, and I can explain how that works in case you need to debug anything there and go through the Arduino program. So once we're in the actual Dobot program itself, Dobot Studio, you can find that off of Dobot's website in the download center. It's right here, Dobot Magician Studio. You just download that, run the launcher, then you download everything there. So the main concern for what we use the Dobot for is in the teach and play part. But first, once the Dobot is in, you actually want to press the connect button, and then it will connect. And I will leave a link also, just in case it doesn't connect. There's a solution, there's a workaround to make it force connect just in case. You can have an Arduino and the Dobot plugged in at the same time to the computer and download programs to them, or else there's errors and they'll be stuck between each other's communication port. So the main concern here is teach and play. So it just goes through a little tutorial overview, but let's just open up the file we have for now, which I will provide for you guys. So this is the program, the main program file for the Dobot itself. It just has the home, each of the coordinates I set for everything, and then when I want the suction cup on and off. And then when you want to download anything to the Dobot, you want to make sure you're in pro mode. And then after you set the program, you press download. But make sure you have the loop set to anything that's not 1. So if you want the robot to do its work like 30 times, then just set it to 30. And the reason you do that is because just in case something happens, you don't want it to just loop once, or else then you'll have to turn off the Dobot, put it in offline mode again, and rerun it. So we have it set to loop 30 times. You can set it to any amount you guys want, but we just have it at 30 just as a safe number, so it has to be recalibrated, even though it doesn't have to actually be after 30 tries, but just to be safe. So let's go over basic things. So I'm going to do a new program actually. All right, so we're going to go over to the Dobot, and then now it just is basically you just program it to however you want. So we would do like the home spot, then somewhere over here, then on top of the candy, then setting the suction cup on, and then put it like right here so it actually picks up the candy. And then you want it to move it up again. And the reason you want to move it in upper position, so then the Z-axis knows actually where it is, so it doesn't run into the button or this. And then we just want to move it on top of the candy, then release that. And then you just tell the program to turn it off. You can label everything here also as names for everything. So let's say this first position was our home. So now you can copy and paste that at the end, so then it knows to go to that same spot. And then you also want to make sure when you want the suction cup to turn on when it's on top of the candy, you want to make sure you do like suction cup on, keep it on for as many steps as it needs to be. Then once it gets on top of the candy, then you turn it off. But in my program, I have it set to there's a pause time of 2 seconds, so the suction cup just has enough like time being on. And then also for the trigger ID, you want to make sure you go to the trigger tab over here, and you want to pick the input EIO 19, and you want a condition value of 1, so it's high. That's just so the Arduino sends the actual value to the Dobot to actually do its job. So you have that set over here, and you got your input condition value 1, then basically the program will work when the Arduino sends the high value to it. And then you can just save it, and then you make sure you download it as well, and then you're good to go there. And then just some things to be aware about with the motion style. You want to make sure, because move L and move J are just like jumping and actually moving through space. If the program seems like it's skipping through some of your phases, then you want to make sure you change the move L and move J. It really just depends on your program. Sometimes it'll be based off its move for the most part. So we're going to discard this, open up my program again. So I have it as a move L, then move J and L's and everything. And that's good to go. And if you need to do some testing, you can turn the suction cup on over here. And then you can hear the suction cup is on actually. That's just for any testing you need to do. You can change the speeds also of everything too. Same with the speed over here. And if you want to just play around with the robot, you can just move like little coordinates on it, and then it will actually move. So you can hear the robot actually moving around. It would be. So yeah, it's moving around as I'm pressing the X, for example, or the X minus, and it's going away. That's just like fun things you can do. If you need to fine tune it, that's what you can do, or you can edit the coordinates in here as well to do that. So that's all we really need to do, because the Teach and Play programs are only concerned with using the Dobot in this scenario. But you can also make sure you can press the home button over here if you need to calibrate it just for testing, and just be aware again of lifting this up as it goes by the suction cup, because if I weren't to do that, it basically would be right here and start like hitting it a lot, and then you have to lift it up and move it over here. So it's just easier to make sure you're kind of lifting it as the home is moving over here. Then it will recalibrate itself in its Y, X, Y, Z for its predetermined home, which we cannot change, unfortunately. All right, and then there's an emergency stop button as well, just in case. And so we're gonna go out of this program. 1 second. So actually in the settings, we actually have just lots of settings in case you need to have them set up. But the only setting I had to mess with was just changing the name, so it's AACC Dobot. You guys can change it to whatever you need. And then let's see, Teach and Play. Depending on what tool you're using, you want to change the options here to gripper, laser cutter, pen, because it also has 3D printer and such as well. So actually, to leave the Teach and Playback program, you press exit. Write and Draw, that uses the pen tool, which is not attached right now. Blockify is just some coding thing, but there's no way to activate that in offline mode, so you have to have it plugged in the computer to use that. Same with Script. Leap Motion, that's just some more playing around with. Mouse, you can use your mouse and move the robot. Laser Engraving, just for in case you want to use a laser cutter. 3D Printer, same thing, 3D Printer. And then there's online resources you can do to add more things for the Dobot to do. So we're done with the Dobot program now. So we can go ahead and open up our Arduino program and go over that. So we're using the server library and Adafruit.star library for the LEDs, and then the SPI that is being used also for the LEDs as well. So you want to make sure everything is hooked up in the right pins, which everything is, unless you decide to take something apart. I have a circuit diagram as well that explains everything. I'll link that also in the video in case you need to download it. So then we have all the limit switches, these motors, and then this is just for the LCD to have it, or the LEDs to have it in when it's in the idle mode. This is just like some code for that. And then same thing just here, LED setup code. And then this is just initializing setup for the LCD screen. Let's see, and then we got sending our impediments as inputs for the limit switches, and then the big green button as well. And then we send the Dobot, that's an output pin, just because it sends a 5-volt signal to the Dobot to actually turn on. And then just setting up the motor. And then this is in the loop of the program itself. We just have everything being digitally read, all the integers being created, and then we have our if statement of everything else. So we're gonna we have a switch statement also for this. So based off of this, so if the button is high and is being pressed, then it'll say button pressed and move to the switch statement sequence count. But if not, it's just gonna go in if else, which is sequence count 0, nothing's being pressed. This is just the code for the idle light to be showing. And then if you press the button, then it goes into the program actually. So from sequence count 1, it'll go over to here, which is the switch statement. So then we got our serial print dispensing candy. It also will say it on the LCD screen. Most of everything that prints in the serial monitor prints into the LCD screen as well. So all this program does is tell the motor to write, and then once the limit switch that's by the candy tower gets hit, then it sends it to the next switch statement, which then retracts the arm to go the opposite direction. Then it hits the second limit switch back there in the back, and then that stops the motor, turns it off immediately. But there's still power being sent to it, so it will be making a humming noise, but that's just nothing to worry about. And then here we have the coding for the LED light for the Dobot itself, because what's going to happen is once it gets hit, once the next limit switch gets hit, then it's going to actually send the signal to the Dobot to start grabbing everything. So over here we have everything sending the signal to the Dobot, saying it's going to grab the candy, and then sending the Dobot high. Then you have to send it low afterwards, or else it will constantly be set at a high. And then we have then this is just the code for the LED progression with a time, just on a timer. You can change the value if you need to, but it takes about 1,000 or 15 seconds, 15.25 seconds, which is this value in just regular milliseconds. And then this is just the rest of the code, just more for the LEDs. After it drops the candy, it will say, please take your candy for 4 seconds. The lights will be white. And then after that, the program stops, goes back to the top, and then the idle light program right here just keeps going. And then as you saw, the blue, yellow, and red swirling goes.
Control on there, Neil.